catalysts for igniting positive thoughts and actions for achieving success personally and professionally in whatever job you have. Because if we can turn our minds and focus and find the positives, we all can achieve success no matter who we are, no matter what level we're at, in working, in school, wherever it is. Positivity in life is key to success. And as one who went through many challenges to be here today, I have learned how to turn negatives into positives, and you let it be my foundation, or as I call it, my anchor. So when I'm going through difficult times and I'm feeling down, what can I use to bring myself back up? So what I look at is like what I'm doing, what have I accomplished, how am I touching people's lives, am I making it better? As a matter of fact, for those who are brand new to us, we happen to have the National Single Parent Resource Center, and it is listed with the 211 resource line of Martin and Palm Beach County. And all you have to do is dial 211, as well as I think in Broward it's called First Call to Help, as well as in Martin County. So we're all over, and we get calls from people who don't have much money, but they need some help and guidance, and we give them a little bit of our time and put them in the right direction. So it's something that I can look back and say, as I'm feeling a rough day, that, I am changing people's lives. It may not be today, but I have done positive things, and it's like, wow. And it's with everything in life, because in life we can find the challenges, but we can find the positive in the challenges if we allow our mind to open up. Because positive comes from something, a minute that you think about, it's a thought, it's an action, it is how you change and gear your mind up to go into default of what is positive. And that's also why I do this show, because of the fact that we want to put positive information that everybody can benefit from, but that also if you have a situation you're dealing with, and we've already talked about it, you can go to our YouTube page through my website at www.coachjudy.info, and you can then go back and see the different shows and discover there was a topic we talked about, you're dealing with it, so it then becomes a resource for you to use down the road. In addition, I want to let people know in the beginning instead of at the end, we are also building a business vendor directory. And you may wonder, well, what is that? Well, that's a business directory that we have done in the past, but everything we're doing is brand new because everything is internet based. And we are looking for businesses who want to get their name out there. They want expanding their exposure in different markets, different directions, and grow. And of course, in business, we know it's the bottom line profits. So we even have a program for businesses to list. It's not just listing, but can come on our show. And they even, if they're not one who wants to talk on the show, we will even do marketing for them on the show. So the business directory is not for those who are listing and have a business. You're not just a name. And then as we expand and bring new people involved and having teams working with us, we will do in-person and Zoom networking. So just know we're about everybody. And the other aspect is you don't have to be a member to use the business directory. It's an open-ended directory for anybody to go to, and it's on coachjudy.info. So I just want to share out with you a little bit about what our show is about and what I'm doing to make a difference, that you can get involved. And you can also know that whatever you do, you can make a difference. It can be on your home, it can be in the community. And that brings me to our first guest that you see, Brian Bandell. He is a phenomenal writer, a phenomenal person, because I always see in the business world and being posted what he is doing next in his writing. And if you are in business, chances are you have heard of the South Florida Business Journal. And Brian has been covering now the busy real estate market. And it's a hopping market down here. And you hear it all over the news about Florida is growing in different ways. And Brian, I bet, could talk a little bit about the real estate market and what really is happening, so you don't have to read about it. He has been with the South Florida Business Journal for 20 years. Believe it or not, Brian already has received 25 journalistic awards, including, if I say it correctly, the Green Eye Shade from the Society of Professional Journalists. He became the best business enterprise reporter in the southeast of Florida. And that was this year, if I'm correct, for the Florida Society of Professional Journalists. And he won first place for his business writing. So we're talking to somebody who really understands how do we communicate, which is an area people don't always know how to communicate. Mm-hmm. Not only is he a writer for the South Florida Business Journal, but he is an author. Mm-hmm. And he has been writing what it turned out to be a number of science fiction books. And I'm going to share that with you. He wrote the book that we're going to talk about today as his latest is The Rabbi and the Condemned. And I will have to say, when I posted it on my Facebook page, I had a lot of people checking it out. Even a cousin of mine up in Ohio who is a doctor. And I was like, Hank, he saw that we put great guests on our show. He also is the writer of Mute, Silence of the Living, The Murder Gone Viral Thriller, Famous After Death, and it's a science fiction-based combat short story. And he also has medical martial arts. So now we're into the Rabbi. And when you see Rabbi, you think religious. Mm-hmm. And we're going to find out just how really religious it is and mm-hmm. what it's all about. So Brian, please share with us, in your words, not mine, what it's been like and what led you to become a journalist.
Well, I've always had a passion for news and for writing. In elementary school, I had a spiral notebook and I would write stories and novels in the notebook, often in pencil, so it didn't last too long. But
oh, really?
I was getting inspired by reading, fantasy stories about and all that, and I would write stories in there, and I would sometimes do some illustrations. But I also always read the newspaper. My dad always read the paper. He always got the paper. So I started with the comics, then I started with the news. And
we just lose you?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right?
So we lost picture. The internet and I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Brian?
I hear you okay. I hear you fine, yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Go ahead. And paper.
Yeah, so
okay. I don't know why our pictures keep going up, but it must be the internet.
Yeah, I read the newspaper a lot, and as I always liked writing, and I did good in English class, and so as I went to college, at the University of Miami, I got a journalism degree. I went for journalism. And I started writing for the Hurricane, the University of Miami's newspaper. And, I initially wanted to do like music reviews and movie reviews and entertainment. But I kind of realized that, doing reviews of music and movies was going to be tough because, the internet was catching on more, and like anyone could post on a blog what they thought about movies and music. So I didn't feel that was the way to do it. And as I started writing, I gravitated towards business, but I always liked fiction. And even in college, I started working to try and create novels, so I always still had that passion. So while I make my living as a journalist and doing that, I've always had a novel idea and continued to try and work on a novel. So I always am picking away at trying to create a novel and get it out there.
That's
and
great.
I've done that. I've gotten novels published, and so it's good. But I mean, my primarily what I do is a journalist, but I love writing novels too, and I love how it impacts people.
Well, what you have said for parents who might be listening is really pay attention to what your children are gravitating to, because chances are that's putting them in the direction, and you need to help support and feed that creativity or whatever it is that they are drawn to. Because I think sometimes parents have their agenda as to what they want their kids to do, and it's pound into them, and then they can't really do what they enjoy doing.
Yeah. And my family was always very encouraging for me. When I won awards in high school for writing, they were very encouraging, to continue down that path.
That's fantastic. So how did you then end up with the South Florida Business Journal?
Well, I worked at college. I worked at the Associated Press, and I did an internship there. that lasted after college. And then after that, I worked for the Boca Raton News for a year, but that paper wasn't really working out. And I interviewed at the South Florida Business Journal because I liked writing business.
Right.
I was doing a lot of business when I was at the Boca Raton News, and I felt that business was a good place because a lot of the business is very tangible. It's you make money or you lose money, right?
Right.
You have new ideas. It's sold for a gain or it's sold for a loss. A lot of the other reporting, like the political reporting, it really wasn't anything to grasp there.
Right.
It just got people heated, and a lot of I did when I was at the Associated Press, I did like some of the crime reporting, but that's like it's emotionally difficult, to knock on someone's door after their child is killed and talk to them. It's like it's very draining to do that kind of thing, and it's hard to do. It's hard to consistently do that kind of a thing. So I kind of like the idea of business, and where I could write about what a lot of people care about, the economy. And I felt I could bring a lot to that. And also, I've always felt that I was good with numbers, and
that's great.
Very much numbers-based reporting.
That's fantastic, because as a matter of fact, I don't think you might say it, I bet you knew Mike Sala then.
Oh yeah.
Well, because Mike and I go back, he's from Toledo, which is of course where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
And when I called up, I think it was the Toledo Blade, about getting a story when some great things had happened, I think he answered the phone and we started talking. And then all of a sudden I find out he's at the Boca News where I was getting stories out. It was like, wow, it's amazing how, as a writer or journalist, how your career can take different paths with different papers, because of the fact the changing of advertising and marketing content is so different than when we knew it, especially in my day when I started the nonprofit. There was no such thing as the internet.
Yeah.
So, it's different. So I'm glad you bring out how it has changed with your career, in the beginning of your career, and how you checked out and did different types of journalism before you found your real niche and love.
Yeah, right. The right subject to write about. Of course I can, and when I do other things, I'll write healthcare reporting, government reporting, but all within sort of the business journal lens is how I do it.
Right. And what is that lens?
Well, it's about a lot of what we do is about how it impacts the businesses and economics. So we'll write about like when I wrote a story on Alzheimer's disease last year, and so for me the focus was, what's the impact when someone has to leave the workforce to be a caregiver for Alzheimer's disease? Say your parent, one of your parents has Alzheimer's, they can no longer care for yourself. You're in your 50s and you were planning on working another 10, 15 years, but now you have to stop. You either have to pay for their full-time caregiver, or you have to retire early and care for them. And so that has an impact on the workforce.
Definitely.
People are leaving early. So that's an example of health very much impacting, economics for people.
Well, see, and everything is health, because I know, like with the single parent market, it's like people like, oh, I'm not a single parent, or I have my own charity. It's like, well, single parents are impacting everybody from the schools to the workforce. And it's like, you need to kind of understand what's going on, because if you want your employees productive during that time, it's nice that they have somewhat of an understanding and a supportive system there.
Yeah, and that's why daycare can also be a business issue, right?
Exactly.
Having the daycare available is crucial.
Oh, it is. It's very difficult. It's so hard for people to make it if you don't have a very well positioned job, I should say, or your own business that's thriving. It's difficult out there. So I appreciate it. All right, now since you are a writer and you wrote a lot of books, I'm really curious about the book, The Rabbi and the Condemned. What is that all about? Because you can think of all different things, but what is it in your mind that you wrote about?
Well, to me, the story is really centered around the Jewish concept of atonement, especially with Yom Kippur, a holiday it's coming up in a few weeks, really.
Right.
So it's about how to make something that you did wrong right, and not just by praying about it and saying you're sorry, but to actually go out and try and correct it. And so here's a situation where Rabbi Samuel Rabinowitz, for a long time, for 31 years, he's known that an inmate on death row was innocent, but he was afraid to come forward with that information. And now in the future, the death row in Florida has been moved to an asteroid mining station called Stark Station. And so the inmates there are facing a lot of danger mining asteroids. They could die on any mission. And with radiation exposure to what they're mining, it's slowly killing them and degrading them. So he realizes he doesn't have much time to try and set this man free. But in order to do that, he has to leave everything behind. He has to go be basically as a chaplain on that prison and take a flight, a space shuttle out to the asteroid belt. And in doing that, it's not like being a prison on Earth where you can just walk out. You're on an isolated space station, where basically the warden is king. The warden decides what goes on. There's no one really to intercede. And the warden is not happy about the rabbi interfering and trying to free this inmate who also happens to be his best pilot there for the mining missions. So here you have someone who has to decide, when he's there and confronts it, how much danger am I willing to face myself? How much am I really willing to sacrifice to set this right?
So it's about your inner self, really, of knowing, having knowledge, and whether you put it out there or not is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, it's about trying to really make an atonement, because I think a lot of times some people are reluctant at all to admit mistakes and admit fault. Other people might admit it but not do anything about it. But here's someone who felt that it was eating him up inside to keep this secret. He felt that he was lying to his family. He was lying to his congregation. Because remember, this is someone who every year on Yom Kippur got up to the congregation and said, let's all ask for forgiveness from God. Let's all cast our sins away, right? Let's empty our pockets of our sins. And yet he knew that he had a horrible sin that he was not letting go of, that he was holding on to. So he felt like, how can I go up in front of these people and be their example? And well, I'm not doing this, and I could do something.
So it's like he's feeling
very high, but he could do something.
Right. So it sounds like he was feeling almost like being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And how many hypocrites are there out there in the real world today?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there's this whole thing where a lot of people now don't want to ever admit fault or ever admit they make a mistake, and they defend things that shouldn't be defensible. When sometimes it's as simple as an "I'm sorry," right. Other times it might be more complicated, right? To undoing things. But I think the story tries to say that no matter how bad it was, you can always try. I mean, listen, he knows that the inmate was in jail for more than 3 decades wrongly, and he can't undo that, right? He can't
change what's happened.
Missed.
But do you find that's not uncommon in the real world?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times it applies in the real world, because a lot of times whether it's someone wrongly imprisoned, or you might look at groups of people that were mistreated. You might look at, slavery that impacted, the African Americans. You can't undo that, but you can try and make it right. You can try and do your best to make it right. You can try and do your best to help people and to put people on equal footing, but you can't change what happened.
Right. It's
almost like you can't erase what happened.
Right. It's almost like acknowledging and invalidating that we know these things happen. And then, as you're saying, what can be done to help them feel they are valued? Yeah.
But I think the first step is to publicly acknowledge it, which is, again, hard for the rabbi himself to publicly acknowledge it, because he's also, admitting his mistakes and his faults by publicly acknowledging he should have done this earlier. And then, well, how can I help this person? And what could I do, given that this person's already suffered from this, and you can't undo the suffering, from that point, you know, but you can at least from this point on make things better. Try and make things as good as you can from this point on for their life. But I think that's how a lot of things are in life. Is like, do you just throw your hands up and say, well, there's nothing I can do, it's already been done, or do you try and make the best of what you have left here?
Exactly. That is so true, because I find that in the real world, and I find that with families, and in having spent 30 years in the single parent market area besides in the business market, it's the same thing, because there's so much anger. It's like people don't want to shift it, because the problem is that if they acknowledge it, then there's feeling that I have to change, and so many people don't want to change. I know a gentleman who says, I'm too old. I'm not changing. I'm too old. And it's like, you're never too old to change if you want to and have a better life or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And then the other factor in here is, can the inmate forgive the rabbi for what he's done? What does he do now? Because, he saying, this person is coming to free you. Oh, thanks for trying to free me. But wait a second. I didn't need to be here in the first place. And that,
Right.
so
it's like, is there anger? Is there anger of the person? Why didn't you come forward?
Yeah.
So it creates a whole nother dynamic scenario going on, it sounds like, in the book.
Yeah. And so how should he react? Should he be grateful? Should he be angry? Should he seek revenge? How do you react to knowing, like, well, thanks, you freed me, but like, it's like, I'm already been sick from all my years out here. I feel terrible living out here. Like, what do I have left now?
Right.
Well, but that's also where it comes into the religious part of it, because they both find different inspiration in their religion to talk about, what do you do with your time left? Even when you get redemption, when you get that second chance, the idea is that every moment in life is precious. So even if you've had a bunch of moments that have been squandered or been wasted or been taken from you, you can do something special with what you have left.
I'm so glad you said that, because my being older than when I started my single parent and my whole new career, I find that the older people, will sit and do nothing, and they kvetch or complain. And it's like, I'm sitting and I'm hearing, and it's like, God, there's so much more you can do to life. Doesn't mean when you retire, you have to stop and just sit and watch TV. There are so many things that you can do and get back to the community, or to your families, or to families who don't have a family. There is so much that you can do besides playing cards. Because I look at it, because I look at it, it's like, I'm not vegetating my life away. It's like, people say, well, Judy, you're still doing it. I said, yeah, I've never stopped. I cut way back because of circumstances, but I never really stopped. And it's like, why would I, since I love it and I'm changing in people's lives, why should I stop? Unless the medical says you can't talk anymore. Because I always said to people, as long as there's a phone, and now that we have the internet, I can always keep working and doing the things that I love and enjoy doing.
Yeah, you could still reach people and make a difference in their life. Yeah, of course, you should still do that. It's never too late to do that.
Exactly. And I'm stressing this because there are too many people out there who are getting their 70s and then 80s and 90s. Some are real active and stewing, and they're thriving. And the other ones, they're depressed. Then they develop the mental issues. They gain the weight. They don't watch their health. And to me, it's like, you're waiting for death. Because if you're doing nothing, what else are you waiting for?
Yeah.
So what else can you share with us about our book, and what would you like our audience to know about you personally, and whatever you want to share? It's your time. As I say to our listeners, we care about you. We care about our guests. And we want our guests to share what they feel is important to be put out there.
Yeah. So this is yes, The Rabbi and the Condemned is the fourth book I published, and it's a great story about redemption. And I have earlier books that you alluded to. It's a science fiction series, Mute and Silence the Living is a series about a series of murders that were committed in Florida. and a woman takes in a child who witnessed her parents get killed, and the child has gone mute and won't say and can't say what happened. And so the girl is trying to shelter her as all kind of strange things. It's sort of like an X-Files type mystery going around. And my thriller novel is Famous After Death. That's a story I call Murder Gone Viral. It's about teenagers who are trying to get attention on social media, so they commit murder and post it on social media anonymously, and in order to try and attract attention and get comments and everything like that. And then it's about the police that are trying to track them down and stop them.
Well, you know what I'm hearing is you're talking about your different books is that you really through the books you're giving people messages.
Yeah.
I think that's great, because in some books it's just murder and all this stuff, but you're really carrying messages for people to really give thought to. And I think it's wonderful that you write that way.
Yeah, I mean, the books are all about the characters and trying to revolve around the characters and the dilemmas they have to deal with. So whether the characters are in space or whether in Miami, whether it's a thriller thing, whether it's a science fi thing, it always has to be the characters and what are the challenges they're facing and what are their motivations here, what are the obstacles in their way. So I'm kind of a character centric writer. Everything has to go around that.
I hear you. And I think that's great, because there's a common theme of messaging that you're doing so that anybody can read your book. And so we've been talking about your book and your writing. How can people actually purchase your book or any of your other books?
So all my books are on my website, brianbandell.com. You could order from me directly, or you could go to amazon.com, just search for my name on Amazon, and you'll see my books that you could order either physical or ebook, however you like to read. And there's also a short story called Medical Martial Arts that's exclusively on Amazon too as an ebook.
Oh, that's great. So they just go to the website, or they have to have the app on Amazon?
Either from me directly, and I can order it through a Shopify website, or from Amazon. You just order it from your Amazon account, whether you want a physical copy or an ebook that you read on whatever device you'd like to read an ebook on.
Well, I guess your question for those who want to write, are trying to write, and they want to get on Amazon, can you share a little bit how you do actually get on a book on Amazon?
Well, I did it through my publisher, Silverleaf Books. So all my books and my short stories were through them. So they handled the process with Amazon. So that worked out well. They were able to get me on there. And so, but if you want to self-publish, there is a self-publish option for Amazon as well. I have not used that, but I know authors that have. You could do self-publish for either an ebook or a print book. But obviously, if you self-publish, you need to front more money to do that, and you need to pay extra care to who is your editor and who is your cover designer and everything like that. Because normally, if you have a publisher, your publisher will handle the editor and everything like that. But if you're doing on your own, you may want to hire an editor to help you out.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you, should you have a publisher, and what's involved in getting a publisher and get your book out there? Because people don't realize, they say, Judy, go write a book. I said, I'd love to write a book, but they don't realize there's so much behind the scenes, and then getting out there and seeing people to market the book. Yeah,
definitely. There's differences between the publisher and going without a publisher. With the publisher will handle a lot of the editing for you. A lot of times they'll handle the cover for you, and they'll make sure that it gets the places it needs to get in terms of it's on Amazon, it's available for order on the distribution hubs. For instance, if Barnes & Noble wants to order it, or Books and Books wants to order it, they can go to the distributor and order it directly from the distributor and get copies that way. But of course, if you do that, the publisher is taking a large percentage of the sales.
Oh, I see.
You are not getting a lot for each sale. If you self-publish, you need to hire your own editor, and depending on the length of your book, that can be costly. You're responsible for your trademarks, for your cover, everything like that. And you need to yourself get it on Amazon and decide that the terms are in terms of how much of a cut Amazon gets. They'll probably dictate to you. And getting distribution will be a little harder, and doing and everything like that. And getting reviews will probably be a little bit harder, but you will keep a larger cut of each sale.
All right, I can ask you a question then for people who are thinking. Can you give people a ballpark of what it would cost to do it on your own versus the cost with having a publisher?
I mean, if you're doing it on your own, it could definitely cost $2,000, $4,000, something like that, to launch it. Then it depends how much you want to spend on marketing.
Right.
A publisher, it shouldn't cost you much at all. Hopefully, the publisher will cover all the costs for you. But also keep in mind, not every publisher is great at marketing. So it really depends. And don't expect that one thing you learn as an author is don't expect that once you get a book published with a publisher, you can just sit back and they're going to market for you. A lot of times, even if you're with a brand name publisher, that won't be the case. They'll do a little bit of marketing for you, but you have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And it's tricky. Getting reviews is tricky. Not as many newspapers run book review sections as they used to. And a lot of those that do run it as a syndication section. So it's, there's not as many in-print book reviewers. There's a lot of online book reviewers, but, it's very fractured,
Right.
And even someone who has a book review blog might get 300 book pitches a week and only review, 1 or 2 a week.
Exactly. It varies. It's like with the talk show and everything that you do. Because I know when I have a client, I know that they're enjoying it. I will ask them, I said, could you write me a testimonial? Because that speaks for what you do.
Yes.
And I think it's really important. People don't think about it. It's like, do you value your self-worth? If you do, then ask. Don't be afraid. You can all you can get is a no. But if you get a yes, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, but it's rewarding. I mean, what I love about writing is that it's rewarding and that you can create something. You can hold a book and have people read it and have a reaction to it. And so it's kind of a longer lasting kind of a reaction you can get from people from doing it and kind of creating this whole world. So I love that part of it.
I can imagine. I can make it good because in our careers there are things that we just love and it just thrives us. So I want to, well, Brian, any closing remarks before we go?
Again, I just wanted to thank you so much for having me on your show. It is wonderful to be here, and I just want to remind everybody that even if you have a day where things aren't going well and when you don't feel good, you never know what tomorrow might bring. You never know what great thing might happen in your life tomorrow that can turn everything around. So always remember that the next day is worth living for.
I'm so glad you said that because it's so true, especially in today's times. And it can be a minute you don't know. So don't give up.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on. I look forward to getting one of your books and reading your last one because the Rabbi one really stood out to me. And I love the dynamics of how people wonder what should they or shouldn't they, and how do people respond if you do. So thank you so much for writing the great books that you do. It's been a pleasure having you on today.
All right. Thank you, Judy. I so much appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Brian. Take care.
Okay, you too.
All righty. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, you see, that's just an example. We're going to talk about writing a book, but we talked about much more. And it's really wonderful for people to see that life can be full of the unexpected. And sometimes it's the unexpected that brings you the greatest joy, the most excitement. So never close your mind off to anything. If somebody offers you something, take time and to read it, think about it, and see, because too often we are quick to say yes or quick to say no and didn't do as I say, getting the facts to act so you can achieve the success in your life and whatever it is that you're doing. So it's really a pleasure to, do this and provide you valuable information. And I believe we do have now a producer who does our technical work. And I believe that we are ready for our next segment. So let's see our next banner. Okay. As you see the banners that my technician put up, and I want to tell you a little bit about her. She has to stay in anonymity because of she is a minor and the family prefers her not be on screen, but hopefully at some point she'll be able to come on screen. But the thing of it is that everything that we have posted here comes from somewhat what Brian had to say about learning and keeping your mind open and how you can turn bad situations into something positive and also learn and grow from it. Well, that is how this show, the National Single Parent Resource Center, the vendor member business directory, all came about. I'm not going to go into detail because it's been written about so many times. I've been interviewed multiple times. And for those who are new to Coach Judy, I am a recognized expert on divorce and single parent issues when I was honored in 1999 with the National Phoenix Award. And that came totally unexpectedly because all that I was doing is wanting to help single parent families, not just the parents, that's not just the mom or just the dad, but wanting to help mothers, fathers, grandparents, aunts, and uncles who are involved in a child or children from a single parent family. Because when you lack the knowledge and the understanding of what is involved and how to speak with them, we ourselves can innocently, as I like to give them the benefit of the doubt, don't really understand what you should or shouldn't be saying with children from single parent families. In addition, I found myself in a custody battle with family when I thought I was going to be helped temporarily, and discovered when I was physically well and doctors released me that 9 months later I would call and ask for my child to be returned, and the words I heard was, "Go tell it to the judge, we're not giving her back." And I then had to call the other person, the other parent involved, and see if he was able to make any headway. And of course, he received the same thing of saying, "We're not, go tell it to the judge." And these parties thought that there was no way they were going to lose their case, that I had to bring forward because I believed that the help I was being given was going to be temporary. And what I discovered, and why it's so important, why I strive and bring this up as much as possible, is that if you don't really understand what the legal papers mean, and you don't have an attorney who properly explains to you what they mean, you're going to get yourself into trouble. Because what happens is what we read that makes sense and logical may not necessarily mean the same thing when going into court and how the court reads it. So I decided that when I got through with my case, that I learned so much because I engaged myself in it with other groups of mothers who were without custody, dads who were without custody, and they helped me. And then I learned so much knowledge. How could I just let it go and not turn it into something more, which is something like Brian and I were talking about with his books, and the theme of his books of what you learn about human beings and human nature and how you act. And that comes to something that I want to read to you because in today's times, there is so much chaos, there is so much confusion, there's so much division. And I find that a lot of people don't really know who they are and or understand themselves or care to really learn and understand who makes them who they are and really how do they think. And I came up with a saying that reflects what I'm going to read to you today is, who am I? Who are you? Who are we? Because we all are individuals. How do we come together? How do we interact with one another? Well, it comes from the point of me. Who am I? So I'm going to read you a poem that I received years ago about me. See if you can relate to it. And I'm going to have our producer put up the comment section of our show where you can make comments, because I'd love to get you interacting with us so that we can really talk about what sets you in motion and what you think is important. So please, let's get our banner up there now so people can make the comments or our comment section of our show to put up so people, as I'm reading, can actually make comments. First of all, it's called Me. And I'm looking down because I can't look up to read it. Me. I am only me. I am unique. There are two major parts of me. There's the inside me and the outside me. The outside me is what you see, the way I act, the way I imagine I portray, the way I portray, the way I look, the things I do. The outside me is very important. It is my messenger to the world, and much of my outside me is what communicates with you. I value what I have done, the way I look, and what I share with you. The inside me knows all my feelings, my secret ideas, and the many hopes and dreams. Sometimes I let you know a little bit about me inside of me, and sometimes it's a very private part of myself. Even though there are enormous numbers of people in the world, no one is exactly like me. And I'm going to add, remember, nobody is like you, so you do not have competition. I'm sorry, I just lost my track here. Even though there are enormous numbers of people in the world, no one is exactly like me. I take full responsibility for me. And the more I learn about myself, the more responsibility I am going to take. You see, my me is my responsibility. I am going to take. You see, my me is my, I'm sorry, messed it up a little bit. I take full responsibility for me. And the more I learn about myself, the more responsibility I am going to take. You see, my me is my responsibility. As I know myself and more, I find out that I am okay person. I have done something good things in life because I'm a good person. I have accomplished some things in my life because I'm competent person, because I know me. I know some special people because I am worth knowing. I celebrate many things I have done for myself. I have also made some mistakes. I can learn from them. I have also known some people who did not appreciate me. I do not need to keep those people in my life. I wasted some precious time. I can make new choices now. As long as I can see, hear, feel, think, change, grow, and behave. I have great possibilities. I am going to take those risks and those possibilities, and I am going to grow in love and be celebrated. I am worth it. I don't see our comment section. Hopefully our technical person can put up our comment section. And the reason I love this is because when I ended up in a legal battle, I didn't realize that I lacked self-esteem. I also realized that I looked to my family who were very successful and felt because they're older and wiser, they know more than I did. But if I had known to value what I learned and what I know and let that be my foundation and basis, then I would not have been codependent on others. And my life may have been so very different. But that's okay. Because the legal battle I faced and the people I came across, I learned from them, and I learned more about me, and I learned why I am who I am. But unfortunately, there's too many people who aren't willing to take and look at themselves. As one person in my life said, I'm too old. I cannot change. I'm not going to change. And because of that, in my opinion, this person suffered cancer, then a triple bypass, and then cancer again, every time they took negative action and attacked me in different ways. Because attack doesn't have to be physical. It can be verbal. It can be psychological. It can be their anger coming out in the way they speak to you. But the difference was from then and now is I know me. I know how to communicate because I learned how to communicate from writing from a friend of mine who said, Judy, state the facts. You don't have to go into the emotions. And now I teach you and those who want to take a class who are going to go to family court. How do you communicate so you're not attacking the other person and your anger isn't being projected onto them? Because those are things that can work against you no matter what it is. I will say this, that many years ago, I went through some tough times and came across some unbelievable people. And I found one said to me, and we were in a place that we were staying together, and she had a heart condition. And I'll never forget this because it was the second time somebody tried to pull it with me. And she said, if I die, it's your fault. What did I say to her? Because I had learned, I said to her, no, it won't be my fault. I've done everything to help you. So I wasn't going to let her victimize me and put myself under her control. Because if I said, okay, all right, it's my fault, then she had control over me and what she could do to manipulate me. And this is what happens in families. When families don't work together, they learn tools to manipulate others because they thrive on others and telling them what to do. And because they're afraid, they become manipulated. And that's what happened to me, is I was allowing other people who I trusted and loved and respected to manipulate me because I thought they knew it all. But truthfully, they didn't. And in the end, they lost more because of the fact that because I became a public figure, they weren't able to be out as much as they were because people learned what they were doing to me and to my own little family and what I had to go through. And on the other side is I turned it into something successful in changing people's lives because I then ended up through my work became a recognized expert on divorce and single parenting. And how I got recognized as an expert is that I sent information that I was encouraged to do to this organization because they had a program every year where they honored people. I never would have said to myself, go send it. Somebody else encouraged me to go send what I had done, and I did. And as a result, I won the National Phoenix Award by Parenting Coalition International back in 1999 because I believed in me. I knew what I was doing was changing and impacting people's lives because they told me so. And then I even got and asked them, as I said in the other segment, I asked for testimonials because how can I prove to others that I'm as good as I say I am? The only way I could do that was besides them hearing me speak, but also by providing them testimonials, and one is up on my website at coachjudy.info, that reflects how I help them deal with their anger and the stress and the knowledge that they gained by taking advantage of the National Single Parent Resource Center, as well as the programs of individual coaching. And then there was the video that is now available on our website that you can get at coachjudy.info. And then they also took the class and they got the knowledge that they needed. So they weren't so controlled by others and they knew how to handle themselves. And it wasn't just for being and dealing with court. It is also about going and feeling confident about themselves in every part of their life. Because what people fail to realize is that if we don't learn to value ourselves, respect ourselves, love ourselves, how can we go out and be that way to others if we don't feel that way? So that's why I'm so excited to have Brian on and to find out that his books that he wrote really have a theme that relate to reality of human behavior and what people do in real life and what can happen. So whatever we do with whoever we are, I really want to stress to you, find the things that are positive. Create a thought that's positive that helps you feel good. Take action. Most people aren't going to take the action I did in creating an award-winning nonprofit known as National Single Parent Resource Center, nor would they go on and actually do their own talk show by themselves and never having done it before. But we're all different. But that doesn't mean you don't have wonderful, great talents that you can put out there and use. Because when you use what you love and you make a difference in every aspect of what is out there and available for you to take your talents to, your life can be enjoyable. When you have losses, and I have had many losses, I've also dealt with what they call a living death. 4 people in my life became known as people from a living death standpoint because I won my case and I was the person that they never saw. And I evolved into being something even greater than I once was. But if I didn't know how to cope and deal with living death, how could I be here today? I would have been messed up mentally, physically, and probably would not have lasted as long as I have. And one of my missions, as I've said to others, I don't necessarily put out my age on the show, but people think I'm younger, people think I'm a lot older. But what I always told everybody, even when I was a lot younger and doing the organization, is this. If I can talk, and thank God because of the internet and the phones and the laptops, as long as my mouth can talk, my brain can think logically and share, that I never have to stop. It's only when those things change and the body says, Coach Judy or Judy, your body just can't keep pushing anymore, then I'll know it's time to stop. But my mind, as long as it's alert, I'll always be thinking of others because I thrive on helping others. I thrive on enjoying and making a difference in people's lives because let my pain, let my challenges be positives for others to learn and grow from. I also am going to give you my website because there, if you have a business or you have know people who have businesses or practices as doctors or lawyers or have a business on the street, not on the street, but have a place of business where they sell retail, please, I ask you, refer them to Coach Judy at coachjudy.info. Let me interview them and see if they're a fit to be one of our vendor members in our directory, because the vendor member directory is open to everybody. So that if you need a service, there's more than just Pine Trust on the other platforms. There's www.coachjudy.info that's got the resources that anybody can use. And that's why my brand has became Coach Judy and everything is under the Coach Judy brand, because it represents providing knowledge, resources, information. It's a place that I present myself of me, of caring and helping and caring about you. And I decided our directory wasn't going to be just for business members or just for the single parent members, but for everybody, because everybody can benefit from everybody else. And I will say those who we take in, we're not going to take just anybody into our directory. We're not going to have scammers. We are going to ask them for specific information, our business license, where are they registered, who they are, some references, and so on, so that we can check them out, so that we know that we've got good people becoming a part of our directory, so that you can feel a little bit safer by going to our vendor member directory at coachjudy.info. It is a place for everybody. And then if you know people who are becoming single parents, who are or a single parent, or they have to go back to court, the National Single Parent Resource Center is the first place to go, because that is where you're going to get the foundation of information you need to go and walk your step in becoming and being a single parent that learns and understands how to work in the best interests of the children and how others should learn. Because I say our video, which is called Practical Knowledge for Facing Divorce and Single Parenthood, is something that everybody should benefit from in order. Why? Because it's about communication. It's about learning how to communicate in writing, how to verbalize in communication so you're not attacking. It even has vignettes with actors who are from single parent families who acted out what you shouldn't do, so you can see the wrong way and we teach you the right way. And it also goes into, how do you hire a lawyer? How do you get that information? How do you know what to do? We also have it set up so that if you have a financial situation and you're being assistance, we will work on a sliding scale with you so you can get some of the benefits. But I will say to you, we give our video at a discount to everybody because we know everybody is struggling in one way or another. So I ask you, please spread the word about CoachJudy.info website, our talk show of valuable information. And what's really important, we are a catalyst to ignite positive thoughts and actions so you can achieve success personally or professionally or in whatever job you have. Because when you can create positive thoughts in your mind and rely on that, your anger and your stress is going to be reduced. Trust me, I know, because I lived it. I went through a period of time for many years, longer than I expected. I sometimes wonder, how am I going to get through it? How I'm going to live? How am I going to make it? And I found that by focusing on the positive for that moment, and not worrying about the day, but for that moment, that I was going to be okay, because that moment becomes minutes, becomes hours, hours become days, days become weeks. So that's why it is so important to really find ways to focus on the positive and create positive energy in your life. And I believe helping others is one of the greatest ways, because then you can pay it forward. We are also looking for volunteers. Our producer, I can't say her name, she's an intern. How did I meet her? I reached out to an organization that my father was actively involved with that helped, I believe, to bring it here to Broward County, known as Junior Achievement, who I hope to have on the show one day, because they were about businesses and helping youth learn and understand the business community and work for others. So that's why if you connect and you look and think about your life and who you can reach out and what you like to do, you're going to enjoy your life better than sitting and just watching the TV or the internet. What are you going to get? If you give and do, you're going to feel better. I say to those, and I haven't said much, I was diagnosed 53 years ago with a physical disorder. And I said, I am not going to let it stop me from doing what I want to do. It has slowed me down, but it's still allowing me to do what I want to do because I am in control, not the medical condition. So if you sometimes wonder, where is Coach Judy? It's because I've had to slow down, take it a little easy, so I have the strength to give you what I can give to you. And also remember, again, go to coachjudy.info at www.coachjudy.info. Contact us, get involved. We want to do a newsletter. We want to do so many programs for businesses, for single parent families to connect and join, and for the business community to meet the single parents. But guess what? I my technician producer for this radio show, as well as my board member, cannot do it alone. So we are looking out to you so that you can, oh, I see, there's the contact, so that you can get involved and make a difference too. And remember, Coach Judy cares about you. I don't care what color, I don't care what your religion, I don't care what work you do. You're no different than me. We are all the same. We just think and see things differently, but we all remember, human beings, we are me. And I'm going to say this again. I am only me. I am unique. There are two major parts of me. They are the inside me and the outside me. I also want to let you know, not only did I create the National Single Parent Resource Center, I was involved with being in B'nai B'rith early in my 20s in Toledo, Ohio. I also became the president before I divorced and moved down to South Florida. I also got involved and spoke at NOW. I got involved with the Children's Rights Council, which is now the Toby Center, I believe it is. I got involved with other organizations, the Vocal Promise in Boca Raton that Colin Howell started. I got involved with United Way, the Children's Service Council, and other organizations because I knew to reach out and get involved with others because of the fact if we don't give of ourselves, how can we really help and be whole ourselves? And again, I'm going to ask and reach out. Become involved. We are looking for volunteers, people to pay it forward. We are looking for businesses who want to increase their profits, who want to increase exposure, because I'm going to tell you, we are on 46 countries, 56 platforms, all 50 states, as well as the new streaming network. We are on Roku and so much more. And if my technician is there, hopefully she will put up the screen that shows how you can watch us on Roku. So let me give a moment, and hopefully our producer is still with us and she can put up that banner for you to see. I know we're past our hour, but those who know me know I like to talk. So please, could you put up our flyer? Hopefully she is there. We didn't have technical difficulties. That is where you can see. All right, she's still there. I see she put them up. I also want to thank our technician who's taking time out of her busy week to help us do the technical for our show once a month. When we get more people involved working with us, we'll do 2 shows a month. But again, as I said, I have a physical disorder. Doesn't allow me to work every single day like I'd like to, or do a show every day like I used to with Clear Channel, now iHeart. It was a show about practical tips at your fingertips. Still the same thing. It's businesses coming on, people of everyday life coming on, sharing what they do, giving you a positive message, and sharing knowledge, because we know we need to get the facts so we can act and achieve success. Thank you for tuning in, and please go to our website, go to our YouTube channel so that you can watch our show. Thank you very much. Thank you, our technician, and thank you, Brian, for coming on our show. Have a great week, and remember, reach out and focus and find the positives and make your life even better. Thank you.